All right, Shabbos, say good morning. Let us begin. So we are continuing in Mirz Hashem this morning in Osnun Chas, in Tzidkas Hatzaddik, where the Rebbe introduced us to, I think, this incredibly novel and really life-altering idea that being a tzaddik or being a rasha is not an absolute state of being one way or the other. But rather, again, a person could simultaneously be a tzaddik and be a rasha. I could be a tzaddik. Now remember again, the Rebbe's definition of Tzidkas is very interesting as well. That I am a tzaddik vis-a-vis certain averos for which I have not only not performed, but also have no taiva. If a person essentially has no shaychus, essentially no connection to an avera, one could be considered to be a tzaddik in that particular area. So again, the good news is, although we may transgress, that's not the good news, but although we may transgress certain averas, at the end of the day, most of us, Baruch Hashem, have averas for which we have no desire for, and for which we have not, and which we have not transgressed in any meaningful way. So therefore, according to Reb Tzaddik, that's an area in which I am a tzaddik, versus the areas in which I actively transgress, or even the areas in which a person has a desire. In those areas, I cannot be considered a tzaddik. So we'll say, so incredibly enough, in any given moment in life, I am simultaneously a tzaddik and a rasha, all at the same time. All at the same time, in the same personality. So the Rebbe goes on, he says, I'm picking up on page Kuf Mem, the left-hand paragraph in the Biurei Chasidus, right in the middle of the paragraph, after the brackets. Dahainu, about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 lines up from the bottom on the left-hand column on page Kuf Mem. So to which the Rebbe says, Ume'inyan zemuchach shemi kashel adam be'eza avera. So the Rebbe says, from here you see that if a person indeed stumbles and commits a particular avera, yesh bekach simin v'hochacha avuro shu'eno naki legamre min ha'avera hahi. So we'll say this, here the Rebbe highlights something which is incredibly profound. That if I end up transgressing an avera, now listen to these words. He says, if I transgress an avera, that's a siman, that's a sign, and the proof that I am not totally clean from that avera. And I will say, now what does this mean? This is incredible. So we'll say, let's imagine the following situation. A person transgresses an avera. Whatever the avera might be. I will say, so what does that say about the individual? So very often the way a person could look at it is, I made a mistake. Mistakes happen, and at the end of the day, it's a mistake. Is that avera a part of who I am, a reflection of where I'm holding? No, not necessarily at all. Just sometimes in life, mistakes occur. Hatzaddik says, that's not true. When a person commits an avera, even if it's accidental, that shows that there's an element of that avera embedded inside of me. And what's his proof to this? And this is incredible. He says, Ulakach hashogeg shenichshal ba'avera belidas nikra b'torah b'kinui chote. Therefore, I will say, what happens? What does the Torah call an accidental sinner? A chote. A chote. I will say, what's the name of a carbon that you bring for the accidental commission of an avera? Achatos. So that says, what does that show you? What does that show you? He says, nefesh kitechta bishkaga v'tzarech kapara. And we see both said that a person requires atonement even for an avera committed accidentally. K'moshe matzinu shechayiv lekarban shechayiv lehavi karban chatos. Both said this is such an incredibly profound idea. Why is it, think about this just from a hashkafic perspective, why does the Torah hold me liable for accidents, for an accidental commission of an avera? Well, say just to give a very contemporary example of this. A person flicks a light switch on Shabbos, right? Which again, I think it happens to everyone at some point. Well, not everyone. It happens to most of us. At any given point. I will say, if there was a Beis Hamikdash, what would be the halacha if you accidentally flip the light switch? It's kamechatas. So what's the pshat with that? Right? It's an accident. Accidents happen. Or fill in the blank for any chatos that a person may have. Why is there liability for a chatos? Why is there liability for a shogeg? So Tzaddik posits, because a shogeg is part of who and what. Meaning, if I commit an avera b'shogeg, what that shows is that there's something deficient inside of me. There's something deficient inside of me. I was like, it's the same way. It's the same way. He goes on. Look at his example. He says, so for example, the paradigmatic example of this is someone who kills someone else b'shogeg. Right? This is a very dramatic case. Remember again, Reuven's climbing up a ladder. He falls off the ladder. He falls on top of Shimon. He kills Shimon. What's the halacha? He has to flee to an Ir Miklat. For an accident. For an accident. Reuven he never met Shimon before in his life. He doesn't feel any level of negativity towards Shimon at all. At all. But now he falls off the ladder, falls on Shimon. Shimon dies. What's Reuven's halacha? Galus. I will say, we know what Galus means, right? You know what Galus means. I mean, we'll see when we get to Maseches Malkus. Galus, Ir Miklat, your family goes with you. And how long are you there for? Well, it depends on the Kohen Gadol. You hope and pray that the Kohen Gadol is of advanced age and is in ailing health, because it's only the Kohen Gadol's death that ultimately sets you free. So this individual's entire life upended. Why? Because of a mistake. Why is a mistake treated so severely? To which Reb Tzaddik says, because mistakes are representative of some internal disconnect. If I commit a mistake, what that shows is that there's something amiss inside of me. There's something that's not right. There's something disjointed and disconnected. There's something in a profound state of disrepair if a mistake could occur. I will say, and this is my sim b'chol yom. Whereas, what this comes up very often. I say something to someone. And then I realize afterwards, you know what? It was really inappropriate. It was just really inappropriate thing to say. It was hurtful. It was deconstructed. Whatever it might be, it was just really the wrong thing to say. And I say to myself, where did that come from? And then I will say, if I'm a self-aware enough person, I realize there's something wrong in me. When I say something wrong, I mean there's a deficiency in me. There's a disconnect in me. There's something that's misfiring that would allow me to have acted this way. Maybe it's stress, or maybe it's some midah. But again, it's so incredibly important. Halacha, the Ribono Shalom holds us accountable for mistakes. Because even though it's a mistake, it's not intentional. If I could commit this mistake, it's reflective of some dynamic that is broken inside of me. Mistakes don't occur in a vacuum. And I will say, by the way, it's the same thing going back to the Shabbos thing. The flipping the switch on Shabbos is the easiest example of this. I will say, what happens if I realize that I flipped the switch on Shabbos? There's something wrong with my Shabbos awareness. That's what it is. It's a mistake, absolutely. But somehow, some way, my Shabbos awareness is not absolute. Because if it was absolute, right? If it was absolute, so it was like there are other forms. Meaning, clearly, when I have a complete awareness, it's a complete awareness, right? No one goes ahead and at work goes ahead and gets up and lays down on their desk because I thought this was my bed, right? No one has that because I have an absolute work awareness. So when you have an awareness, you're present. If I do something wrong, it means there's a lapse in the awareness. So that's what Hatzaddik says. Also, this is such an incredible yesod. So therefore, even when I commit an avera b'shogeg, even when I commit an avera accidentally, the Hatzaddik says that shows that there's some dynamic that's broken inside of me. So the Rebbe goes on. He says, "V'al derech zeh mavur." So he says, about this, it is said, we'll stop over here, we'll pick up Emir Hashem with this last piece tomorrow, but I just want to point out what the Hatzaddik is doing. So the two layers so far. So layer number one is up until, I know personally, up until I learned Os Nun Chas in Reb Tzaddik, I always assumed that either you are a tzaddik or a rasha. Right? There's no parav, there's no in between. Reb Tzaddik says that's unequivocally untrue. Instead, he explains most of us are always a tzaddik and always a rasha. Right? I'm a tzaddik in the areas in which I am not sinning and in which I have no desire to sin. And I'm quote unquote a rasha, although again we're going to mitigate that term a little bit. I'm a rasha in those areas in which I'm actively transgressing. or desire to transgress. That's level one, which I will say is an incredibly redemptive statement. Because what that means is, no matter how badly I mess up in life, in any given moment, I still have at least the quasi-status of a tzaddik. Lesson number 2, Reb Tzaddik is teaching us now, is responsibility for shogeg. Why is it that the Torah Kedosha holds us responsible for accidental commission of Averos? Because when accidents happen, they are reflective of some internal state of disrepair. And this is why when accidents occur, we must be ever vigilant. We must be ever vigilant about what that says about where I'm actually holding in life. We'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up Emir Hashem with that last piece for the conclusion of Os Nun Ches.